The mysterious signal. The vast silence of space was broken by a faint, chaotic signal. It crackled and echoed through the control room of the Zenith Council's orbital station, millions of light-years from Earth. Lurak, the chief sinologist, frowned as he adjusted the transmission frequency. The signal was unlike anything the Council had ever encountered. "Is it another natural anomaly?" asked Corin, one of the senior analysts. His voice was dismissive, bored from years of monitoring faint whispers of dying stars or collapsing nebulas. "No," Lurak replied sharply. His dark eyes narrowed, focused on the stream of data scrolling across the screen. "This is artificial. Someone, something, created this." The council room grew quiet. Lurak's clawed fingers tapped rhythmically on the console, amplifying the transmission. A strange mix of sounds burst from the speakers. The alien scientists leaned closer as the room filled with echoes of laughter, screams, and a rhythmic pounding that sounded like explosions. "What is this madness?" Corin muttered, leaning back in his seat. "It's a transmission," Lurak said, his voice barely above a whisper. He played the audio again, slowing it down this time. The sound waves painted a strange picture. Human voices speaking in countless tongues, music that stirred emotions even the Zenithians couldn't explain, and scenes of chaos that defied understanding. The visual feed was even more disturbing. Images flickered across the screen. Battles fought in trenches, machines tearing through skies, and flames consuming entire cities. The aliens who had long prided themselves on peace and intellectual pursuits watched in stunned silence. Lurak paused the feed and turned to the council members seated around the table. "This is coming from the Sol system," he said. His tone was measured, but there was a hint of unease in his voice. "From a planet they call Earth." The name stirred no recognition among the council. Earth was an insignificant dot on the galactic maps, too small to matter. The Zenithians had explored countless worlds, cataloging them for resources or alliances, but this planet had never drawn their attention. "Primitive," Corin scoffed. He gestured dismissively at the frozen image on the screen, a group of humans raising a flag over a ruined battlefield. "These creatures are clearly stuck in the age of violence. They're no threat to us." Lurak didn't respond immediately. His claws tapped the console as he zoomed in on the image. The humans in the photo were battered, bruised, but their eyes burned with determination. "I'm not so sure," Lurak said. He brought up more footage. It showed humans building massive cities, exploring their own oceans, and even launching themselves into the void of space. The timeline moved rapidly, showing their evolution from primitive tribes to a global civilization in what seemed like the blink of an eye. "What species advances this quickly under such harsh conditions?" Lurak asked aloud. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Zenithians had taken millennia to rise to their current state of harmony and intellect. Progress came slowly, through careful deliberation and cooperation. The humans, by contrast, seemed to thrive on chaos, using conflict and adversity as fuel for their relentless drive forward. "This is fascinating," Lurak said, his voice tinged with excitement now. "They are a young species, but their potential is staggering. If they survive their self-made destruction, they could become something extraordinary or dangerous." Corin waved a hand dismissively. "You're overthinking. Let them burn themselves out. No species that thrives on war can sustain itself." But Lurak wasn't convinced. He rewound the footage to a clip of humans launching rockets into space. The primitive craft barely scraped past their atmosphere, but it was enough to make his stomach twist. "They're reaching for the stars," he said. "That's not the behavior of a species content to stay confined. They're already looking for more." The council chamber fell silent. For the first time, a sense of unease rippled through the room. The Zenithians had always believed themselves to be the galaxy's most advanced and peaceful civilization. But these humans, brash, reckless, and undeniably ambitious, posed a challenge to that belief. "What do you propose we do?" asked one of the council members, her voice uncertain. Lurek took a deep breath. We send a probe. We need to learn more about them, about their culture, their technology, their intentions. If we don't, we may find ourselves unprepared for whatever they become. The council debated for hours, their voices rising and falling as they weighed the risks. In the end, Lurek's argument won out. A stealth probe was dispatched toward Earth, programmed to observe and report back. As the council adjourned, Lurek lingered in the empty chamber, staring at the frozen image on the screen. The humans in the photograph were battered but unbroken, standing atop the ruins of their world with defiant pride. "They're more than warriors," he muttered to himself. "They're survivors." First contact gone wrong. The stealth probe glided silently through the vast darkness of space, its hull coated with the latest Zenithian cloaking technology. Invisible to most known detection systems, it approached Earth with quiet precision. Lurek monitored its journey from the Zenith Council's command center, his eyes fixed on the live feed transmitted from the probe. At first, the images were mundane, clouds drifting lazily over oceans, sprawling cities filled with flickering lights, and vast deserts stretching to the horizon. Earth was beautiful in its way, but it was also chaotic. The probe's sensors picked up constant motion. Cars speeding along intricate networks of roads, aircraft cutting through the skies, and even humans moving like tiny ants through their bustling cities. Such activity, Lurek murmured, his fascination growing. It's as if they never stop. "They're undisciplined," Corin remarked, standing behind him. "A planet full of creatures driven by instinct, not reason. This is no great civilization. Just noise and motion." Lurek didn't respond. His focus was on the probe's deeper scans, which revealed startling results. Beneath the surface, Earth's electromagnetic field pulsed with signals, communications, data transmissions, and energy outputs that far exceeded what the Zenithians had expected from a so-called primitive species. "They're more advanced than we thought," Lurek said quietly. The probe's next task was riskier. It descended lower into the atmosphere, aiming to collect closer visual and audio data. The cloaking systems worked perfectly, rendering it invisible to the naked eye and most basic detection grids. As it hovered over a dense city, its cameras zoomed in on the human activity below. The footage was captivating. Humans of all shapes, sizes, and colors moved through the streets, their expressions a mix of determination, exhaustion, and curiosity. Some carried strange devices that glowed with light, while others gathered in groups, speaking animatedly. The probe recorded it all. "This doesn't look like a species on the brink of collapse," Lurek noted. "They're organized, driven." Corin scoffed. "Their organization is crude. They waste energy fighting each other. This chaos will be their undoing." But Lurek wasn't so sure. He focused on one section of the city, where a massive structure loomed. It was a military installation, bristling with defenses. The humans there were assembling weapons and machines, their faces grim with purpose. The probe's sensors detected the electromagnetic signature of high-powered radar systems and weaponized energy sources. "They're preparing for something," Lurek said, a cold unease settling in his chest. As the probe continued its observation, it transmitted more data back to the Zenithians. Detailed scans of human technology revealed a surprising level of sophistication. Though crude by Zenithian standards, the humans' creations were innovative, designed to function even in harsh or unpredictable conditions. "Resilient," Lurek muttered, almost to himself. "They build for survival." The probe drifted closer to the military base, its cameras zooming in on rows of tanks, aircraft, and missile systems. It recorded humans practicing drills, their movements precise and coordinated. The Zenithians had always dismissed war as primitive, a relic of lesser species. But here, war was a science, a discipline that humanity had mastered. "Do you see now?" Lurek said, glancing at Corin. "This isn't just chaos. They're preparing for something greater." Corin was about to reply when an alarm sounded on the control panel. Lurek turned back to the screen, his heart sinking. The probe's cloaking field had begun to falter. It was a minor fluctuation, likely caused by the dense electromagnetic interference from the military base. "They won't detect it," Corrin said confidently. "Their technology is too primitive." But even as he spoke, the probe's sensors picked up a sudden burst of activity. Radars locked onto its position, and ground-based systems began tracking its movements. On the screen, the humans in the military base scrambled into action. Sirens wailed, and soldiers pointed to the sky. "They'd spotted it," Lurek exclaimed, his claws flying over the controls in an attempt to recalibrate the cloaking field. The humans reacted with astonishing speed. Within moments, anti-aircraft systems roared to life, launching a barrage of missiles into the sky. The probe's automated systems activated evasive maneuvers, weaving through the oncoming projectiles. "They shouldn't be able to hit it," Corrin said, his voice rising in disbelief. But the humans had anticipated the probe's movements. The missiles adjusted mid-flight, their guidance systems locking onto the faint energy signature left by the probe's cloaking device. Lurek watched in stunned silence as one of the missiles struck its target. The probe's feed cut out instantly, leaving the Zenithians staring at a blank screen. "They destroyed it," Corrin said, his voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Lurek spoke, his tone grim. "They detected us, tracked us, and eliminated our probe in less than 5 minutes. Does that seem primitive to you?" Corrin didn't respond. Back on Earth, the humans recovered the fragments of the alien probe. Unbeknownst to the Zenithians, humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. The discovery of alien life was no surprise to them. It was something they had long suspected. And now, they had proof. In a hidden facility, human scientists worked around the clock, studying the fragments of the alien technology. What they found would change everything. The truth in history. The Zenith Council chamber was unusually quiet. The destruction of the stealth probe had shaken even the most skeptical members. It was not just that the humans had detected and destroyed the device. It was the speed, precision, and apparent ease with which they had done it. Lurek stood at the head of the table, his expression grim. The remaining data from the probe had been analyzed and compiled into a comprehensive report. Now, he was tasked with presenting the findings to the council. "Councilors," Lurek began, his voice steady but tense, "we have underestimated humanity. Their technology, though crude by our standards, is highly functional. Their adaptability is unparalleled. But more than that, their history reveals a species that thrives under conditions that would destroy most civilizations." He activated the display in the center of the room, and holographic images flickered to life. The counselors leaned forward, their eyes fixed on the screen. The first image was a lush jungle, teeming with life. "This is where their story begins," Lurek said, "a planet of predators, storms, and shifting climates. Unlike many advanced species, humans did not evolve in a stable or forgiving environment. From the beginning, they were forced to fight for survival." The images shifted, showing early humans wielding tools and weapons made of stone. They hunted massive creatures, battled predators, and survived against all odds. "They are the product of adversity," Lurek continued. "Every challenge they faced made them stronger, more resourceful." The counselors watched as the images changed again, now showing ancient human civilizations. Cities rose from the dust, empires sprawled across continents, and armies clashed on battlefields. "This is where their true nature becomes clear," Lurek said. "Humanity is not content to survive. They seek to dominate, to expand, to conquer. And they do so with relentless determination." One of the counselors, a frail but sharp-eyed elder named Vorin, raised a hand. "What about their progress toward peace? Surely they must have developed some level of harmony over time." Lurek hesitated. He had anticipated this question, but the answer was not comforting. He gestured toward the hologram, which now displayed scenes of modern warfare. tanks rolling across deserts, planes dropping bombs, and soldiers advancing through smoke-filled battlefields. They have moments of peace, Lurek admitted, but it is often fleeting. Their greatest technological and societal advancements have come during times of conflict. War drives their progress. The counselors murmured among themselves, unease spreading through the room. Consider this, Lurek said, raising his voice to command their attention. They have fought wars not only against one another, but against nature itself. They have conquered diseases, harnessed the power of the atom, and even begun to alter their own biology. They see every obstacle as something to overcome, no matter the cost. The images shifted again, showing humanity's ventures into space. Rockets soared into the sky, space stations orbited the Earth, and robotic probes explored distant planets. They are already reaching beyond their world, Lurek said. If they continue at this pace, it is only a matter of time before they become a galactic power. Koran, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. You paint a picture of inevitability, Lurek, but they are not without flaws. Their chaos, their violence, it could destroy them before they ever leave their star system. Lurek nodded. That is true, but history suggests otherwise. Every time they have come close to destruction, they have found a way to survive. More than that, they have emerged stronger. The counselors fell silent, the weight of Lurek's words settling over them. Finally, Vorin spoke again, her voice heavy with concern. If what you say is true, then what do you propose we do? Should we attempt to contain them, or should we seek to guide them? Lurek hesitated. He had been asking himself the same question since the probe's destruction. Containment may be impossible, he admitted. They are already aware of us. If we act against them, we risk provoking the species that thrives on opposition. As for guiding them, they are proud, independent. They may not welcome interference. The counselors exchanged worried glances. It was rare for the Zenith Council to face a challenge that could not solve with diplomacy or superior technology. Humanity, it seemed, was a problem unlike any they had encountered before. Perhaps the answer lies in understanding them further, Lurek said. Their history is filled with examples of cooperation as well as conflict. If we can find a way to appeal to their better nature, we may be able to establish a relationship that benefits both our species. And if we fail? Koran asked, his tone skeptical. Lurek's expression darkened. Then we must prepare for the possibility that humanity will become a threat not only to us, but to the entire galaxy. Meanwhile, on Earth, the fragments of the alien probe had been taken to a secure facility. Scientists worked day and night, analyzing its materials and technology. They were beginning to understand its purpose and its origin. What do you think they wanted? One scientist asked, peering through a microscope at a shard of alien metal. To study us, another replied. Maybe to judge whether we're a threat. The first scientist smirked. If they came looking for trouble, they'd picked the wrong species. In the shadows of the lab, a general watched the proceedings with a grim smile. Humanity had spent decades preparing for the day they were no longer alone in the universe. And now that day had come. Let them come, the general muttered under his breath. We'll show them what it means to face humanity. A line in the stars, far beyond Earth. In the Zenith Council's command center, the atmosphere was tense. Lurek stood before a massive galactic map, his claws tracing the edge of the Sol system. Every piece of intelligence the probe had gathered was now analyzed, catalogued, and debated. The conclusion was the same. Humanity was dangerous. But the question remained, how should they respond? Koran broke the silence, his tone sharp. We cannot afford to ignore this. If these humans are left unchecked, they will expand. Their nature demands it. We've seen what they do to their own planet. What will stop them from doing the same to ours? Vorin, ever the voice of caution, countered. And if we provoke them, we have no idea how they'll respond. They're unpredictable. They're reckless. Koran snapped. Recklessness is not strength. A single decisive strike could eliminate the threat before it grows any larger. Lurek held up a hand, silencing the argument. Enough, he said firmly. We cannot act on assumptions. Humanity's potential for destruction is clear, but so is their potential for greatness. Before we act, we need more information. He turned to the hologram, which displayed a cluster of ships moving toward Earth. I've dispatched a small fleet to observe them directly. No more probes. This time, we will make contact. The council erupted in murmurs. Contact was a risk, but it was also a necessity. Aboard the Zenith fleet. The Zenith fleet was sleek and silent, its ships gliding through the void like shadows. Cloaked in advanced stealth technology, they approached Earth with caution. At the head of the fleet was the Eclipsera, a vessel designed for diplomacy but armed for war. Lurek had insisted on leading the mission himself. He stood on the bridge of the Eclipsera, his expression unreadable as Earth grew larger in the viewport. Around him, his crew worked in tense silence, their movements precise and deliberate. Status report, Lurek commanded. All systems operational, replied Saren, his tactical officer. The humans haven't detected us yet. Good, Lurek said. He stared at the blue-green planet, his mind racing. Bring us into low orbit. I want a closer look. The Eclipsera descended into Earth's shadow, its scanners sweeping the surface. The ship's crew watched in awe as the planet's cities came into view, bright lights illuminating the darkness like constellations. Such energy, Saren muttered. It's chaotic. And yet it works, Lurek said. He gestured to the scanners. Focus on their military installations. I want to understand their defenses. The scanners picked up massive complexes bristling with weapons. Missile silos, air bases, and naval fleets dotted the planet, each one a testament to humanity's readiness for conflict. They're prepared for war, Saren said grimly. Not just prepared, Lurek corrected. They're expecting it. As the fleet continued its surveillance, a sudden alarm blared through the ship. Cloaking field compromised. Saren shouted. We're being scanned. Lurek's heart sank. How? We're using the latest stealth technology. They've detected us, Saren interrupted, her voice urgent. Incoming transmissions from the surface. Lurek turned to the communications officer. Put it through. The screen flickered to life, revealing a human officer seated in a stark military control room. His uniform was crisp, his expression stern. Behind him, a wall of monitors displayed images of Earth's defenses. This is General Thomas Wright of Earth's Unified Command, the human said. His voice was steady, his gaze piercing. We know you're there. Identify yourselves immediately. Lurek hesitated. The humans' ability to detect the fleet was alarming enough, but their calm response was even more unsettling. They weren't panicked or defensive. They were confident. Lurek stepped forward, his voice firm but diplomatic. I am Lurek, envoy of the Zenith Council. We mean you no harm. We are here to observe and... The general cut him off. Spare me the pleasantries. We've been watching the stars for decades, waiting for the day someone like you would show up. If you're here to talk, then talk. But if you're here to threaten us... The general's eyes narrowed. You'll find humanity isn't as weak as you think. The Zenith crew exchanged uneasy glances. Lurek kept his composure, his mind racing to find the right words. We have no intention of threatening you, he said carefully. But we are concerned. Your history shows a pattern of conflict and expansion. We need to understand your intentions before we decide how to proceed. The general leaned back in his chair, a faint smirk on his face. So, you're afraid of us. Lurek bristled, but chose his words carefully. We respect your capabilities. But fear can lead to misunderstandings. That's why we're here, to prevent unnecessary conflict. The general studied Lurek for a moment, then nodded. Fine. If you're serious about avoiding conflict, then let's talk. But let me make one thing clear. He leaned forward, his expression hard. We didn't survive on this planet by running from a fight. If you push us, we'll push back harder. That's not a threat. It's a promise. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the Zenith bridge in stunned silence. They're bold, Saren said, her voice laced with unease. They're ready, Lurik replied. He turned to the crew, his expression grim. Alert the fleet. Maintain orbit, but prepare for immediate retreat if necessary. As the Eclipsera hovered in Earth's shadow, Lurik couldn't shake the feeling that the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted. Humanity wasn't just a threat. They were a force to be reckoned with. Back on Earth, General Wright turned to his aides. How long until we've reverse-engineered their probe? Another week at most, one replied. Wright nodded. Good. Keep them talking as long as you can. We need every advantage we can get. In the skies above, the Zenith fleet remained, watching and waiting. But on Earth, humanity was already preparing for what came next. The war games begin. The Zenith fleet maintained its silent vigil in Earth's orbit, hidden within the planet's shadow. Lurak stood on the Eclipsera's bridge, staring at the planet below. The humans had responded with confidence, even defiance, and now the question hung in the air. How far could they be pushed before they fought back? Koran, standing at Lurak's side, broke the silence. They're playing games, Lurak. We should end this charade now and assert control. A decisive strike would remind them who holds the real power. Lurak shook his head. A strike would only confirm their fears and provoke them further. We need to understand them first, and for that, we need more than diplomacy. What do you suggest? Koran asked, skepticism dripping from his tone. Lurak turned to Saren, the tactical officer. Prepare the simulation program. We'll test their capabilities indirectly. On Earth, in the depths of Earth's unified command bunker, General Wright stood before a massive digital map of the planet. His officers and analysts gathered around him. Satellite feeds and sensor data lit up the screens, tracking the Zenith fleet's every movement, or lack thereof. They're watching us, Wright said, his voice calm but firm. They haven't made a move yet, but that doesn't mean they won't. An aide stepped forward, handing him a report. We've detected a surge of energy from their ships, sir. It could be some kind of test or maneuver. Or a message, Wright muttered. He turned to the room. Double our defenses. Activate all countermeasures. If they're testing us, let's show them what we can do. Suddenly, a new alert blared through the room. The digital map flickered, and an unfamiliar symbol appeared over the Pacific Ocean. A massive unidentified object descending through the atmosphere. What the hell is that? One officer asked. The object was enormous, over 2 kilometers in length, and glowing with a strange pulsing energy. It didn't match any known alien designs, at least none that humanity had encountered before. It's a simulation, Wright realized. They're testing us. The Zenithian test. From the Eclipsera, Lurak watched as the simulation unfolded. A holographic construct, a massive, monstrous vessel, descended into Earth's atmosphere, its purpose clear: to simulate an overwhelming alien invasion. The ship wasn't real, but to the humans, it would appear as an undeniable threat. Let's see how they respond, Lurik said quietly. The simulated ship emitted a low resonating hum, activating artificial weapons systems designed to mimic advanced alien technology. Energy beams carved through the atmosphere, targeting the oceans and uninhabited areas to avoid unnecessary casualties. Saren monitored the humans' response. They're mobilizing, Commander. Military units are converging on the object from all directions. The display showed human fighter jets scrambling into the skies, missile systems locking onto the massive construct, and naval fleets moving into position. Earth's defenses, primitive though they seemed to Zenithian standards, were highly coordinated. They're not panicking, Lurik observed. They're focused, deliberate. This isn't the reaction of a species caught off guard. Earth's counterattack. On the ground, General Wright directed the response with precision. Fighter jets launched in coordinated waves, targeting the simulated ship with missiles and energy weapons. Ground-based railguns and orbital defense platforms joined the assault, each strike calculated to probe the invaders' defenses. "They're testing us as much as we're testing them," Wright said, his voice tight. "Fine. Let's show them what they're dealing with." The simulated ship retaliated, its energy beams targeting Earth's forces with surgical precision. Despite their losses, the humans adapted quickly, analyzing the ship's attack patterns and adjusting their tactics. "Sir," an analyst called out, "our systems are detecting irregularities in the object's energy signature. It's not consistent with a real physical vessel." Wright frowned. "A projection?" "Possibly. If it is, it's the most sophisticated one we've ever seen." Wright's mind raced. If this was a test, then the invaders were studying not just humanity's technology, but their psychology, strategy, and resilience. He leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Send the signal." Within moments, Earth's orbital defense platforms fired a concentrated burst of energy at the simulated ship. The attack disrupted the projection, revealing its artificial nature. The hologram flickered, then disappeared, leaving the skies clear once more. "They know it wasn't real," Saren reported on the Eclipsera. "They neutralized the simulation with minimal losses." Lurek nodded, his expression grim. Their response was measured and effective. They didn't panic, they didn't overreact, and they adapted quickly. "This confirms what we suspected. Humanity is more dangerous than we imagined." A new threat. As Earth's forces stood down, General Wright turned to his team. "They're prodding us," he said, "trying to figure out our weaknesses. Well, now they know we're not going to roll over and die." "But what happens next?" an aide asked. Wright stared at the screen, where the Zenithian fleet remained in orbit. "Now, we prepare for the real fight. Whatever they're planning, we need to be ready." Back on the Eclipsera, Lurek stood in silence, staring at Earth. The humans had passed the test, but the results only deepened his concerns. If humanity's response to a simulated threat was this effective, how would they respond to a real one? "We can't afford to provoke them," Lurek said finally, "but we also can't ignore them. Humanity isn't just a threat to us. They're a threat to the balance of the galaxy." "And what do we do about that?" Corin asked. Lurek's expression hardened. "We prepare for the possibility that diplomacy will fail. And if it does, we'll have to decide whether humanity is too dangerous to be left unchecked." As the Zenith fleet lingered in Earth's shadow, the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the next move in a game where the stakes were nothing less than survival itself. Shadows of the unknown. The Zenith fleet remained cloaked in Earth's shadow, its presence now a silent, looming threat. The humans had proven their capabilities in the simulated test, and their calm, calculated response had unsettled even the most confident Zenithian counselors. But for Lurek, the test had raised more questions than answers. On the bridge of the Eclipsera, he studied the Earth in silence. The planet rotated slowly, its surface dotted with cities that pulsed with life and energy. It was a paradoxical sight, a civilization that seemed chaotic yet displayed remarkable cohesion in the face of danger. "Commander," Saren said, breaking the quiet. "Incoming transmission from the Council. They demand an update on our progress." Lurek sighed. The Council's impatience was predictable but unhelpful. "Patch it through," he said. A holographic image of Corin materialized before him. The elder counselor's expression was stern. "Lurek, your mission was to assess the humans, not to indulge in endless observations," Corin said sharply. "You've had ample time to evaluate them. What have you learned?" Lurek met Corin's gaze, his voice steady. "I've learned that humanity is more complex than we anticipated. Their technological progress is impressive, but their real strength lies in their adaptability. They thrive under pressure, and their unity in times of crisis is unparalleled." "Unity," Corin scoffed. They are a fractured species, constantly at war with themselves. Precisely, Lurek countered. And yet, when faced with an external threat, they come together. The simulation proved it. Their response was not just efficient, it was cohesive. If we underestimate them, we do so at our peril. Corin's expression darkened. And what do you propose? That we simply leave them be. Wait for them to expand into the stars and threaten us directly. Lurek hesitated. No, we must find a way to engage with them, to steer their development toward peaceful coexistence. But that will require patience and understanding, qualities that some among us lack. Corin's hologram flickered as he leaned closer, his tone cold. Patience is a luxury we cannot afford, Lurek. You have one cycle to determine whether humanity can be contained. If not, the Council will act, with or without your consent. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Lurek alone with his thoughts. On Earth, in the depths of the unified command bunker, General Wright reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The alien fleet remained in orbit, silent and unmoving, but the unease among Earth's leaders was palpable. What are they waiting for? An aide asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. They're studying us, Wright said, trying to decide if we're a threat or a target. An officer approached, carrying a tablet. Sir, we've completed the analysis of the probe's technology. There's something you need to see. Wright took the tablet, his eyes scanning the data. What he saw made his blood run cold. This can't be right, he said. It is, the officer replied. The probe wasn't just gathering information, it was transmitting it back to their fleet in real time. They've been monitoring us since the moment we found it. Wright's grip tightened on the tablet. And now they know everything about us, our defenses, our strategies, our weaknesses. He looked up, his jaw set. Prepare a contingency plan. If they make a move, we need to be ready to counter it. Aboard the Eclipsera, Lurek paced the bridge, his mind racing. The humans had proven their resilience, but there was still so much he didn't understand about them. What drove them to survive against impossible odds? What gave them the courage to face threats far beyond their comprehension? Commander, Saren said, interrupting his thoughts. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual activity on the surface. The humans are mobilizing their forces. Lurek frowned. Are they preparing for an attack? Unclear, Saren replied. But their actions suggest they're anticipating a confrontation. Lurek's unease deepened. The humans were reacting faster than expected. If the Council decided to escalate, it could trigger a conflict that neither side was prepared for. We need more time, he said quietly. More time to understand them, to find another way. The hidden agenda. Back on Earth, General Wright stood in a secure laboratory, surrounded by scientists and engineers. Before him lay the shattered remains of the alien probe, now partially reconstructed. This is our key to understanding them, Wright said. If we can reverse engineer their technology, we might have a chance to level the playing field. One of the scientists hesitated. Sir, if they discover what we're doing. They already know, Wright interrupted. And they're doing the same to us. The difference is, we can't afford to fall behind. We have to be ready for whatever comes next. A clash of wills. As tensions escalated, both sides prepared for the inevitable confrontation. On Earth, humanity's leaders worked tirelessly to fortify their defenses and uncover the secrets of the alien technology. In orbit, the Zenithians debated their next move, torn between diplomacy and domination. Lurek stood at the heart of the conflict, caught between the Council's demands and his own growing respect for humanity's resilience. He knew that time was running out, and that the next decision he made could determine the fate of two civilizations. The first shot. The tension in Earth's orbit had reached a breaking point. On the bridge of the Eclipsera, Lurek stood with his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the blue planet below. The Zenith Council had sent their final directive: engage humanity. For weeks, Lurek had argued for diplomacy, for patience, But Corrin and the other counselors had overruled him. The humans were unpredictable, dangerous, and in their eyes, too great a risk to be left unchecked. "Commander," Saren said cautiously, "the fleet awaits your orders." Lurek turned, his face set in a mask of resolve. "Activate the broadcast beacon. Let them know we are coming." On Earth. In the unified command bunker, alarms blared as Earth's defense networks lit up. The Zenith fleet had decloaked, their ships now visible in low orbit. The sudden appearance of the alien vessels sent shockwaves through the command center. General Wright stood at the center of the chaos, his face grim. "Status report." "Multiple contacts, sir," an officer replied. "They've taken up attack positions over key strategic points. Energy readings are spiking. They're charging weapons." Wright's jaw tightened. "They're done talking." A transmission cut through the noise, the alien voice cold and measured. "This is Commander Lurek of the Zenith Fleet. Humanity has been deemed a threat to galactic stability. You will surrender your military capabilities immediately or face the consequences." Wright's response was immediate. He stepped to the console and activated Earth's own broadcast systems. "This is General Thomas Wright of Earth's Unified Command. We will not surrender. If you attack, you will find humanity more than capable of defending itself." He cut the transmission and turned to his team. "Prepare for battle. Engage all orbital defenses and get me the prototype fleet." The first engagement. The skies above Earth erupted into chaos. Orbital defense platforms opened fire, launching missiles and energy bursts at the Zenith ships. The aliens retaliated with precision strikes, targeting military installations with their advanced weaponry. Despite their technological disadvantage, humanity's forces fought with determination. Fighter jets soared into the atmosphere, engaging alien craft in daring dogfights. Ground-based railguns and energy cannons fired relentlessly, creating a deadly web of resistance. On the Eclipse era, Lurek watched the battle unfold, his heart heavy. This wasn't the outcome he had hoped for. Humanity's response was fierce and calculated, their determination evident in every move. "Commander," Saren said urgently, "the humans are targeting our central command vessel. Their precision is alarming." Lurek studied the tactical display. The humans weren't just fighting. They were learning. Each strike was more effective than the last, their tactics evolving in real time. "They're adapting," he said quietly. Earth's counteroffensive. In the unified command bunker, General Wright coordinated the counterattack. "Focus on their flanking ships," he ordered. "Divide their forces and exploit any gaps in their formation." The prototype fleet, humanity's first attempt at reverse engineering alien technology, launched from secret bases around the globe. These advanced vessels, though untested, added a new dimension to Earth's defense. The Zenith fleet was caught off guard as the prototype ships unleashed powerful energy weapons, their attacks carving through alien shields. "Sir, the new fleet is holding its own," an aide reported. "They're buying us time." Wright nodded. "Good. Keep up the pressure. We need to show them we won't back down." A turning point. As the battle raged on, Lurek's doubts grew. Humanity's resilience was undeniable, their unity in the face of overwhelming odds both admirable and terrifying. "Commander," Saren said, her voice trembling. "Incoming transmission from the humans." Lurek hesitated, then nodded. "Put it through." General Wright's face appeared on the screen, his expression fierce. "This is your last chance, Commander. Stand down, or we will force you to retreat." Lurek's gaze hardened. "You are bold, General, but boldness will not save you. And arrogance won't save you," Wright shot back. "You thought we'd be easy to crush. Now you're learning the truth. Humanity doesn't break. We endure." The transmission ended, leaving Lurek in silence. The cost of victory. The battle continued for hours, both sides suffering heavy losses. The Zenith fleet's superior technology gave them an edge, But humanity's ingenuity and determination proved a formidable counterbalance. Finally, Lurik made a decision. "Order the fleet to withdraw," he commanded. Saren stared at him in shock. "Commander, the Council." "The Council isn't here," Lurik snapped. "We are. And if we continue this fight, we risk annihilating them. And ourselves. This is not the way." Reluctantly, Saren relayed the order. One by one, the Zenith ships disengage, retreating into the void. Aftermath. On Earth, the sight of the Zenith fleet retreating was met with a mix of relief and suspicion. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. In the unified command bunker, General Wright stood before his team. "They'll be back," he said. "And next time, they won't hesitate. We need to be ready." Above, aboard the Eclipsera, Lurik stared out at the stars. He had defied the Council's orders, risking everything to prevent further bloodshed. But he knew the reprieve was temporary. "Commander," Saren said quietly, "what happens now?" Lurik's expression was grim. "Now we prepare, because the next time we meet, it won't just be a battle. It will be a reckoning."